9:05. Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Much to get into throughout the program. Still have a lot of election results to talk about. And joining us on the phones, this is great timing, by the way, the RNC National Press Secretary, good friend of the show, Blair Ellis. Blair, welcome back. How are you today?
Good morning, and I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we're always glad to have you on, and today, obviously, a lot of talk about the election results last night. I want to get just your overall thoughts on what happened. People are talking about Virginia. They're talking about some of these Kentucky. They're talking about some of these other races. Overall, how did Republicans do, and any surprises out there for you?
We fared really well. There were 13 statewide elections on the ballot Tuesday. Republicans won 12 of them, 7 for 7 in Mississippi. It's looking like 5 of 6 in Kentucky. Waiting to kind of hear about the rest of those 4,000 votes that are pending with the Kentucky governor's race. But it was a strong election night for us. You know, we had Kentucky Attorney General-elect Daniel Cameron became the first African-American elected statewide. Republicans hold a supermajority in both Kentucky legislative chambers. In Mississippi, President Trump's endorsement and rally really helped elect Tate Reeves. It got him over the finish line, and we were thrilled to see him become the state's next governor. And we have some other wins, too. New Jersey, we flipped the state Senate seat that's been held by Democrats since 2008. I mean, those are really big and important kind of milestones. It's certainly not something you're going to hear the mainstream media talk about, but we feel good about our wins and our successes from last night.
Well, I think something that you can really speak to it is Virginia. You know, there's a lot of the news media focusing on Virginia and saying that this was a big loss by Republicans. Losing the state house and state senate there. Virginia, to me, it's a lot of folks from D.C. live in Virginia, and it's been trending this way for a while now. It seems, hasn't it?
That's exactly right. Virginia is a state that's been trending blue since 2012, and I think that the fact that we give it our best effort. Of course, we put our full foot forward as we can. And in every state, we do our best. We have the best ground game possible. But there comes a point when you just know that you start seeing which direction a state's going to trend. But that aside, we still feel really strong about how last night ended, and we feel good going into the rest of the year.
Very nice. Let's talk about the other big news, and that is this impeachment inquiry into President Trump. It appears as though there's a news story out today that support for impeachment has fallen 4 points since October. So it looks as though, Blair, people are getting a little sick and tired of this news when there's really nothing there.
That's exactly right, and we've certainly seen that and heard that both in our polls and out as we've crisscrossed the country the last several weeks, the last year, talking to voters. Democrats have had one goal since Election Day 2016, and that has been to impeach this president. And it didn't matter what issue they tried to latch onto; they were going to find something that they could try and use to pedal forward with their baseless investigation. Russia didn't quite work out the way they were hoping it would, and so of course this Ukraine situation has become kind of the next issue they're latching onto. But this is the kind of stuff that American voters hate. It's this petty partisan politics when there's no justification, there's no basis for pursuing an impeachment against a president. You cannot impeach someone just because you don't like them. And these kinds of antics that Democrats are playing right now is exactly going to be what drives the Republican voters to the polls and even independents to the polls come November next year.
Is this impeachment inquiry stuff, is this also adding to volunteers for the RNC and for the Trump campaign and donations? Is this having an impact there?
Absolutely. We've seen a surge in engagement and new volunteers coming into the fold since we launched our website, stopthemadness.org. That's been our real effort to hold all 30-plus House Democrats vulnerable, the ones that promised to work across the aisle, that promised to work with President Trump and yet came to D.C., fell in line behind Nancy Pelosi and started pushing for silly investigations. Our website, stopthemadness.org, we've seen over 75,000 new volunteers sign up to get involved with this party because of this impeachment nonsense. And that's just over the last 6 weeks that website's been created. I mean, we have seen such a swell in support, not just with volunteers either, but with donations. I mean, the voters are tired of these games, and they're ready for a Congress. They're ready for Democrats to get to work for them.
Visiting with Blair Ellis with the RNC. What do you make of the 2020 Democrats right now? It seems as though they've got a lot more infighting the last couple of weeks.
That's exactly right, and there comes a point in every cycle where you start to see the field narrow, but in order for that field to narrow, you start to see the contenders kind of throw some elbows at one another. And I think that I've been waiting for this moment. I think others have been waiting for this moment too. We've got a debate coming up in a couple of weeks too, another one in Georgia, and I'm looking forward to seeing if there's any more kind of elbows that are thrown in the meantime. But what we're seeing is these candidates trying to differentiate themselves from one another, and right now they're having to work extra hard to do that because they all seem one and the same. They all seem like these ultra extreme far leftist people that are peddling these kind of pie in the sky proposals. And I think this is the first real attempt we've seen over the course of the last week or two where they're trying to really differentiate themselves from one another.
Blair, the debate that is coming up, and I'm glad you brought that up. In Georgia, a red state that Democrats, I guess they're hoping to flip Georgia. Really, that's the only reason to hold a debate there is to increase participation. Does the RNC react, when the Democrats go into a traditionally red state? Does the RNC answer to that when the Democrats go in and have a debate?
We always have a very kind of competitive, robust kind of bracketing schedule is kind of how we refer to it. It's our opportunity. We see when Democrats go into any state, whether red or blue, we want to detract away from what they're doing and talk about what it is that Republicans are doing, what this administration's doing. And so we have a pretty comprehensive kind of plan in place with every single debate that we've had thus far. The chairwoman usually flies in. She spends a couple of days on the ground going to different events and talking about what it is that we believe in and what it is that we're doing and why it's that much better than what Democrats are pushing and peddling. And so we look forward to, again, having another kind of comprehensive ground game surrounding those debates in Atlanta. And we look forward to that opportunity to really draw that line in the sand to distinguish between what it is that this president's fighting for, which is economic freedom and opportunities for everybody, and what it is that Democrats are fighting for, which is socialism.
RNC National Press Secretary Blair Ellis, always a pleasure to visit with you, and we'll visit with you as we get closer and closer to the 2020 election.
Would love that. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. That's Blair Ellis with the RNC. Always appreciate having her on.